Cool. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Set the Pipe. I'm Sully, CK Bear. Now we have the head coach from Long Beach State, my former teammate, as well as Bears, Alan Knipe, with us today on Set the Pipe. Thanks for joining, buddy.
Awesome. It's great to have a chance to speak to the three greatest people on podcast.
Well, hey, listen, we made something great. Appreciate that, Al. Appreciate that.
That's right.
Thanks for coming on, Al.
Everybody's listening, watching, make sure you guys subscribe and follow us. Let me give you a little bit of background on our buddy here, Alan Knipe. So, of course, he is the head coach at Long Beach State, three-time AVCA National Coach of the Year. He, as a coach, won back-to-back championships in 2018, 2019. He also, as a player, won in 1991. Our squad, that one right there.
Of course, you had to bring that up. Always.
You should wear my hat, too, by the way, but I don't have it on yet. See those three stars right there? I'm just saying, there's 3 stars.
It's going to be a tough one for you, Cooley.
Okay. He also had the privilege to coach 6 national the NCAA Players of the Year, and you actually have one of their brothers on your team right now who's been absolutely impressive, Nikolov.
Talk of the town.
AVCA Coach of the Year 2004, 2017, and 2018. He was our Olympic coach as well, and we'd love to talk to him about that, but I could go on for the next, hour to talk about his accolades, including the 4-man tour. He played in professional, went to a JC before he actually went to Long Beach State, coached at a JC before he's had his career at Long Beach State. We are so happy to have him on, our friend Alan Knipe. Again, welcome to the podcast, buddy.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate being here.
So happy to have you. I mean, I got to see you earlier this year, at least from a quick one. Sorry, I was wearing the Bruin shirt. My kid hooped there, so I still got to do it. But it was fun to see, and it was also fun to just be in that environment. Wow, what an incredible journey volleyball's taken from when we played you guys at the Gold Mine to watching that match that night at Long Beach State in the Pyramid. I mean, it was incredible. It was electric. The crowd was off the hook, and you guys took care of business. It was so fun to be there.
Yeah, Coley, that it's been like that now for a few years, as far as that, especially that matchup in particular. And I just think it's such a great showcase of the men's game to the volleyball community. Obviously, both teams generally have a lot of talented guys, but what I think probably it's got to be about 5 or 6 years ago now that John Sparrow and I were talking and said at that point we had just left the Big West and split from the MPSF, and so we had no contractual reason to play UCLA every single year, but we were playing them home one year, away the next year, and these crowds at both venues were getting bigger and bigger, and we were also playing each other, obviously, in the end of the season a lot too, and in the Final Four. And John and I said, "Hey, man, we just got to do this home and away every year. We got to play each other more." And ever since then, we've tried to stay in that early February, so everyone kind of knows that match is going to happen kind of at the same time of the year, which I think is really important to anything you want to build a crowd. They got to know roughly what it's going to be. And now it's turned into an event where, we were playing up in Reno the week before the UCLA series at the Pyramid, and the match was already sold out, and we were in Reno a week before. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't happen a whole lot in men's volleyball, especially in the Southern California market. And that's just great. When you can say that you're at a point when it's the only way to get a ticket into the event, if you're not texting me, is that you have to go on the secondary market to get a ticket from StubHub. Those are, as we all know, we've been doing this a long time. These are great messages for people in leadership positions at universities, especially mid-major universities, that you can do this. This can happen at your university. And it's impressive, and it's great for our university. It's great for our program, but more importantly, it's great for the game of volleyball.
Yeah, go ahead, Sully.
Yeah, when I went out to Lewis, I mean, it was 3/4 by the time we got there, and we got there an hour early, and I told these guys in the pod, I'm like, there's got to be some kind of like student thing going on, but I'm just gonna follow the crowd. It was for the match. That was unbelievable, and I was. Al was gracious enough before in warm-ups just to say hello. And then when I saw him afterwards, you told me, you're like, watch this. And all these kids just stuck around. All the Lewis students stuck around to get autographs and see pictures. And it was a packed house, and they had a radar gun for the serves. And it was just, I was blown away. I wasn't expecting it at all, but I'm like, wow, this is so great for not only men's volleyball, right, but for volleyball in general and the attention it was getting. But I was blown away. And then for me from afar, I got to see the UCLA match that Coley went to, and Coley just he's just like, this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable what's going on.
And obviously, Al, we're going to talk stories and stuff that we've known you forever. But the reason why I wanted to do it with these guys was to really get back and to give back to the love of volleyball, which it's done for me, what it's done for us. I mean, we've been all over the country together, and so like I'm at that match, and I haven't been around it as much, been grinding with the hoops with this stuff, and I was just like, I saw so many people, and I'd been to matches, but I was like, wow, this is incredible. And then the next time you played them, which was a few days later, I went to the USC Irvine match. It's right down the street. Jimmy Klein was here. Go watch Dylan play. And I'm getting texts from your match. And, I know what Pauly looks like empty. I know what Pauly looks like full. I was blown away with the crowd. Yeah. I mean, you guys smashed him, but like you just said, it's not just the pyramid that's doing it. Like this was thousands and thousands of people just a few nights, after you had played at Pauly Pavilion watching you guys play. And by the way, I was at the SC Irvine match. Great crowd also. Yeah. DJ, unbelievable game, 26-24 in the fifth, but like it wasn't like that. I mean, we played at Northridge. Maybe if we sold out, we did everything we could to pass out flyers. There was 1,500 people there. We came to the gold mine. There wasn't many people there. Yep. To see that on a night like that, packed house at the Pyramid, 4 days later, packed house at Pauly, packed house at the Bren, all to watch men's volleyball. It's pretty sweet to see the growth and the excitement behind it.
Yeah, I got myself in a tough situation a couple of years ago when I decided to make a comment at the Final Four, and it kind of went viral, and that was, just men's volleyball's NCAA's best kept secret. And I still mean that. And that's the NCAA, they need to do a better job of promoting this sport. You look globally at what's going on in the men's game. You look these massive crowds and what Poland's been able to do, and what's all through Italy, obviously for a million years, but all the other leagues that's going on over there. But you watch some of the Polish championship matches right now, and you see what goes on at the men's game specifically. I mean, no disrespect to the women's game. What's happening at their Final Fours, what Cook was able to do at the football stadium, incredible, awesome stuff. But for the men's game, the crowds internationally are very, very big, and it's a big deal. But the NCAA refuses to jump on that bandwagon and promote it and get on like we had the Twitter account or the social media accounts or the platforms that they eliminated during COVID, and they don't really post. Like you'll get on the NCAA social media platforms and you'll see a post from a year ago, the championship a year ago. And there's too many wonderful stories that are going on. And some of these are exactly what you said. What's happening at Pauly at the crowd, what's happening at the Bren, and what's happening at our matches. You come into the Pyramid for a match and it's sold out, and we got a sandbar, we got an international floor, there's a lot of things going on to promote the sport, but we do need a little bit of help from the people that are supposedly in charge of this thing.
Do you think having John take over USA Volleyball in his role can help that? Do you think he can push that to the NCAA to help grow the men's game?
Absolutely. I think John's a great choice. I had the luxury when I was the head coach of the national team of having Doug Beal as my CEO. I didn't have someone that was in there a suit that was just
not a volleyball person,
empty suit,
person. I had a multi-time Olympic coach and won the first gold medal and coached professionally in Europe, and the most important thing in the world was the national team. So John's going to be that, for Karch and for Sully. And that's going to be a great thing, because when you can pick up the phone and the guy on the other end knows exactly what you're asking, why you're asking, and why you need it, it's going to be good. And then he's going to get in these meetings and he's going to be able to have conversations, whether it's FIVB or whether it's NCAA, and he's going to have conversations. And he's going to be able to explain the why, not just the what he wants. And this is, it's super important to him. And, John's going to want to move the mark. And we got the Olympics in LA. He's going to want to move the mark of where he left it as a coach to what he can do as the president. And I think he's the right guy at the right time. And him and I have spoken. We met in person. He knows that I'll do anything and everything I can to help everybody involved with that thing.
Yeah.
Get the guys on the top of the podium in LA.
Well, that's why we're doing this. Part of it, like I said, is telling stories and getting people like you to tell what's going on in the men's game today, but also help grow the sport and just evangelize the sport of volleyball, because the culture of it, the way we've all lived our lives through it, it's something that it's like you said, it's a really kept jewel, the way you said it. And so, like, the more it can get out there, the better. I would love to see the NCAA, I've been saying this since we were playing, make this a mainstream sport somehow, or as close to mainstream as it can. I mean, like you said, listen, I love the new coach there at Long Beach. He's for basketball. He took a kid that's playing on Braden's team. He's doing a good job. He's trying to do, but they're not you guys. They're not going to win the national championship. They're just not. And I don't care if they're the best team in the Big West next year. He gets 5 transfers. They have the best year they can have. They go undefeated in the Big West. They're not winning the national championship. Those teams aren't built, and the money behind it built to win consistent games 5, 6, 7 in a row. So you're doing it. You're winning national championships. You have a chance to win more national championships. And other schools around the country, like you said, that have men's volleyball, they can do the same thing, right? And so
yes.
I just hope it continues.
Well, let me say that is that I think you point out Chris, and you obviously have a relationship with Chris probably, and Chris is a great dude, and he's going to do great things as a basketball coach for his entire career. He's just getting started on people knowing who he is and his brand. But I don't think that I just don't think that if you're an athletic director, and we've been very fortunate. First of all, Long Beach State men's volleyball, especially over the last 15 or so years. The way we've been treated, the way we've been funded, the way we've been staffed, scholarships, the venue, you name it, all like we said, sandbar, the Terraflex floor, everything. I think there's a lot of good happening. So I'm not necessarily, this isn't a Long Beach State thing. This is a thing to ADs in general. ADs in general, that somewhere there's a book on their shelf. It's called AD 101. And in chapter 1 of AD 101, in paragraph 1, it says you have to put all your funds into men's basketball, because if you can move the mark a little bit, you might get your next job, and it won't be a mid-major. You're going to get your bump because you moved the basketball needle. And that might be true for some. I don't think you have to reduce anything, certainly at all, for basketball, what you're trying to do. It's always going to be the top dog. And at a mid-major, you don't have football, so it's definitely going to be your top dog. Look, basketball, when it does, if you just have basketball, you're going to get about $700,000, even if your team doesn't make your conference tournament, never mind NCAA tournament, back from the NCAA March Madness. So it every team, it matters. And if they advance into the March Madness, there's some good revenue that comes to your university. So everybody's going to take that chance, which they should, because March Madness is a pretty special thing in NCAA sports. Now, but on the other side of that, though, just a little bit of watering the grass of a men's volleyball program could turn it into what Irvine's doing, UCLA's doing, what we're doing, what Hawaii's doing.
Northridge. I mean,
what Northridge is doing
Theo's,
right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Theo, but there's a great backstory to Theo that everyone's watching what's happening right now. But what Theo's starting to see the fruits of his labor right now is what he did for the last 12 or 15 years. I don't know exactly what the year is. All the efforts he's put in coaching the USA teams, the junior teams, the youth teams, getting the Northridge brand out there, building himself as a coach, a system that he wants to run. And he's just at the start of what he's going to do. And he's a perfect example at Northridge. So, Sully brought up when we were at Lewis, what Dan Friend has done at Lewis, where it's packed house and the school rallies around. They've been to Final Four. So, like, if you're an AD and you don't look at some of these for very little money, you could be playing for titles and bringing some of the biggest names in our games through your gym. I to me, it's a pretty simple thing, but there's, there is some complications to it as far as Title IX and other things go, but those are all decisions that can be worked out. They're not roadblocks. They're just, you have to find solutions for them.
Yeah.
So did the NCAA kind of go, hey, it's not us now. We're going to give you 18 scholarships. We're going to not give, right? But like you'll have the availability for 18 and the women's are going to have availability of 18. So you're even now. So has the NCAA just kind of said, okay, it's not us now, right? It's all up to the ADs. It's all up to the university. So they kind of taking off that pressure. Is that your take on this, Al?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's we don't want to get sued anymore. So we're going to pass it back to the conferences and the athletic directors. And we're going to say, you have 18-man roster. You have 18 scholarships. The women have 18 and 18.
Yep.
You know, did they put a lot of effort to figure out that number? Absolutely not. The women have 18, which is probably a decent number for the women. It seems historically to be a pretty good number. But if you're a top women's program, you have 4 or 5 practice male players in your gym every day.
Right.
So you really, where the men, if I had a guy that could help us to come and practice and play that was already at school, he'd be on our team. You know?
Right.
So we're not going to go find those guys to practice against. Those guys in the men's game was how you developed your redshirt squad.
Yeah.
You had 3 to 5 guys who were redshirting, so you had 24 guys in the gym, about the same number the women are using with bodies in the gym.
Right.
But they just said, hey, if it's 18 for the men, it's 18 for the women. But it's going to really affect the men's gyms about, what you're able to do. Because the beautiful thing about having 23, 24 guys is that if you play a doubleheader like we do, like a Friday, Saturday night, a big physical games, you roll in on Monday, you can have your guys that carried a huge load, not jump, swing, or do anything, just pass the ball. And then, boom, you got your other guys out there getting all the attention.
And the reps.
And your level super high. Now, what are you going to do? You're still going to want to rest some guys on that Monday. And now you may not have enough guys to really get it done to have a good practice.
Yep.
Guys.
Who funds that though? This is where my question is. Like now you get 18 scholarships from the NCAA. Long Beach has to fund that, right?
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. Why. Yeah, I mean,
because Northridge is never funding. I mean, again, go back to what I was saying earlier. Like Northridge men's volleyball. Like I'm part of the alumni. We talk about where's CSUN going to come up with 18 full scholarships for men's volleyball? They're not.
How's that going to happen? 4.5 for decades.
Yeah, and they had a fundraise for some of that too back in the day. So I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, like it was back when we were all playing, we had about the same, and Hilly had half of it. So
you're right.
So what are you going to do? But rightfully so.
He had 2 scholarships. He was that good.
But what I would say, yeah, you're exactly right. This is like the NCAA during COVID threw their hands up in the air and said, hey, you know what? Let's get everyone a new year. Not really sure how it's going to work out. You guys work that out. So the ADs work it out. Can you afford? Yeah, if you want to, you can give a scholarship. And then it just absolutely buries the seniors and juniors in high school.
Yeah. Right.
And in reality, this is what's happening right now. There's going to be all these kids greatly affected by these numbers going to 18. That's going to greatly affect the juniors and seniors in high school right now. And then they're going to say to the university, hey, it's not our fault. It's your deal. We're saying you can have 18, but going from 4.5 to 18, that's a pretty big jump, right?
Big number.
So, but at our university, it's a little different. I think, we've talked about how equity is super important for years and years and years at our school. So I'm just hoping that they're going to live that, that's not just a female to male, it's also a male to female. And we're going to see some increase of scholarships, because if we really believe in equity, then we should probably be giving these guys some more scholarships. If you look at some of the guys on my team, you got guys that have played in multiple Final Fours who paid the majority of their tuition. That doesn't happen in most of the other sports. So you're getting a full ride if you're sitting on the end of the bench in a lot of the other sports we have.
Yep.
And that's okay. No one wishes them to be reduced. All I think for me, I look back to how many guys had to have a job on the side or take student loans for the luxury of putting on the logo and representing our university in the Final Four. So hopefully our president, our administration from the campus top down to the administration of the athletic department see the value in what we're doing, and they want to keep it going, because we're going to need it.
Yeah, it's awesome. And and that's great. And like being a mid-major, like I was saying earlier about the basketball, it's awesome. I mean, my kid played in one, playing from there to there, and nothing against all of them, especially Long Beach State. Like I said, I really love him and I know what he's doing there and stuff. It's just really hard to win, let alone win the national championship. And you got to go through March Madness, like schools like Northridge and Long Beach, and a lot of these other ones that go and win 2-3 games in the tournament. You got to win 5. Right. It's not 1 or 2, it's 5. And a lot of these schools will never be able to be built for that because of like the financial reasons and a lot of other things. So, putting the money behind volleyball, one thing that, Dave, he was, at your school with you guys. And the thing that enlightened us about it, we've been talking about D3 volleyball, on here a lot lately, and how much opportunity there's for men playing D3 volleyball. Hundreds of schools playing them. Cal Lou just played Northridge the other week, and they're playing Santa Barbara sometime soon. So what's your take on D3 volleyball and the growth of it?
Oh, I think it's great. Yeah, like I go, obviously, when you go to JOs, you go to the AAUs in Orlando, or you go to a big tournament, you see these just thousands and thousands of kids playing volleyball, dying to play at the next level. There just hasn't been anywhere to go. And so I don't care what levels we add, as long as we make a concerted effort not to just stay in one field. Meaning, if we grow a whole bunch of D3 or D2, that's wonderful and that's good for our game. But we also need to take some swings at some of the other ones, like trying to get the Arizona schools involved again, trying to get, you have Ohio State, you have Penn State. Why can't we get Michigan involved? You got Hugh, used to be at Minnesota, or you got Keegan Cook at Minnesota now. You got all these guys that obviously, they learned their craft as a men's volleyball player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm just hoping that this bleeds into one of these schools taking a chance on, because we're not far off from having Big Ten volleyball, Big West volleyball, Big Ten volleyball. Where can we go? And I just, as much as I want to keep adding sheer numbers, I just think there's something about continuing to get a couple of those other names, those BCS names, and not just work on the bottom part of it.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I mean, could you imagine like Michigan playing Ohio State in men's volleyball? I mean, I got to think the crowd would be amazing. The other one we talked about the other day was, I don't know how you get it, but I think you three know, you kind of know that the women's coach at San Diego State, right? You guys know him. I think you guys know who he is.
Timmons, right? Isn't his last
Timmons
name?
I forget the head coach.
Timmons?
Yeah, he played at Long Beach, I think. He was a pretty decent attacker.
Breds Hilliard, Long Beach State.
But like, I would love to see San Diego State have a men's team again. Like, gosh, that would be so awesome.
Is there a possibility of that happening?
There's always a possibility. It's just a decision of how you want to resource it, right? They don't have to build a facility. I would imagine they have some nets and poles. So like they're going to be able to get some stuff done. And that, look, you're watching San Diego State play in the national championship in basketball. And it was wonderful to watch them talk about their only national championship was in men's volleyball.
Yeah.
During the Final Four of men's basketball. So the fact that that's gone is terrible, because we all played at their tournaments over the years, the A6 tournament down in San Diego. And, historically, there's been some terrific coaches and players that have come out of that program. There's so much history and rich traditions down in San Diego of current volleyball coaches and players. It wouldn't take much. But, obviously they have football, and they're all in on basketball right now. And so it's a choice. But to me, those things don't have to go away. An AD that comes in, especially in the world we live in now, we live in a world that there's NIL available, and there's also what's called Alston available to these student athletes, which is a financial aid component that the schools can give out to every athlete if they choose. That's about $6,000 a year. That does not count against the scholarship allotment. Therefore, it doesn't count against all the metrics they have to use for scholarship, Title IX and stuff like that. So you could get a program like San Diego State going if a group of people in San Diego decided to get maybe an NIL collective together, try to donate money to their fundraising so that they could use it for Alston. And you could get it going again. And while basketball is very important there, and they put a lot of money into football, and they built a new stadium down there, it's still not bad to play in championships. And San Diego State could be in that situation. If I was an athletic director, I don't care what championships my programs are playing in. I just want to play in as many of them as I can. And if that means our tennis team or our water polo team's playing it, I'm going to celebrate that. That's a super important piece for the campus life and to show it can happen. And so hopefully San Diego State gets it back. Those are some of the things, though, that I'm talking about. San Diego State, the Michigans, the Arizonas,
Right.
Cal, obviously up there by Stanford.
Big Five, yep.
Easy travel partner. What else can we do to push for those ones? But it's hard because there's a lot of those guys that have lived in that BCS world that have never really spent much time around athletic departments that had men's volleyball. So it's just not even on their radar.
Yeah.
But I do think that's where SPRA is going to really help us out.
That's interesting because when I was at Bradley, we always had this small discussions about why don't we just add a men's, right? And I know we're mid-major, but they wanted to join the Penn States or the Ohio States, and because the argument, it wasn't even an argument, just the talk track was we already have the poles, we have a gym that's sitting empty right now, we can buy these guys shorts and shirts, we have the balls, like 3/4 of it was already there. So with that being said, I mean that's totally logical. I don't disagree whatsoever about it not being on their radar, but do you think Title IX really plays a huge portion in that in reality, or do you just think that's a crutch?
It does. With football schools, it clearly does.
And it's also different, meaning Title IX is a federal law, but it's also it's implemented differently in different states, and that's decision by the legislatures and also decision by the ADs. But it will always play a factor. But here's the deal. Look, Title IX, I don't want to be here like just bash Title IX, because the thing about Title IX is that its intentions are very good. And there are a lot of good things that came out of Title IX. You watching our national team soccer sell out the Rose Bowl, win the World Cup, like that Mia Hamm team and stuff like that. I mean, that's incredible. What it's done for women's volleyball is incredible. What it's done for softball, there's lots of good, but you don't have Title IX was never put in place to cut down men's opportunities. It was to grow the women's side. But if you're an athletic director and a president of a school, that your philosophy is to cut back on the men's Olympic sports to give more opportunities to the women, then in my opinion, you're completely in violation of Title IX. That wasn't the goal. You have to do a better job as an athletic director and get your staff to raise more money and more dollars and figure out ways of solutions on your campus that you don't have to cut men's Olympic sports to give women's teams the opportunities that they deserve.
Well, it also, I've said this for years, and, I played it for a bit, but football is such the outlier because hopefully it's going to be an Olympic sport, flag football. And I love watching girls high school and it'll soon be women's flag football. It's a great game that they're bringing up, but there's no equivalent to that. And so when you look at football and you're given 80 or 100 scholarships and then you add those into the pool to make it equal, I understand we're trying to be fair, right? And I married a woman who was an athlete who deserves, like we all deserve, everyone deserves equality, but to put that into the equation isn't fair for anybody. And I understand the money and I understand it, but you're saying, we have 100 scholarships over here, we got to give 100 scholarships, but there's no women's sport that has 100 scholarships.
Like football.
Nothing. And so you want to go 12 for 12 or 13 for 13 in women's hoops. You want to go, let's go with the numbers, 18 for 18 in baseball and softball, and men's volleyball and women's volleyball, water polo. There's no men's sport that's the same as women's beach volleyball. Maybe there's a men's sport that can't think of one that there isn't for women to play other than football. And so I've said it for years. I've said it back when I was playing in college. I don't know why they do it. And at the end of the day, and this probably isn't going to be politically correct on this, but hey, there's 80 scholarships for football. Any woman can go out for the team and earn a scholarship to play football.
And that's going over 100, by the way.
But I'm saying, that take football out and make everything else, you said.
They said
Stop
that for
cutting
years.
programs, make it equal, grow the sport of women's sports. Women's sports are amazing. They're taking over the country by storm. You know, the WNBA is really starting to make a push with Caitlin Clark. Women's volleyball, we're watching, you know, I've said it on every podcast. I'm watching Charlie Furbringer play on a Saturday, and I'm turning the channel watching Alabama football. Volleyball is just growing, and women's sports are growing. But like you said, make it fair.
Well, University of Iowa, and I bring it up with Caitlin Clark, right? University of Iowa has 13 women's sports, 7 men's.
Yeah, that's a trend though that's very common, and that has been for years. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to Title IX. Look, I think Chip Kelly, when he was at UCLA, had a really good statement when he was talking about football, and that is that everybody should be an independent in football. And if they had went all independent, we wouldn't be doing this crazy conference realignments and, you know, having Stanford softball have to play against Florida State in a conference match for a 3-game series and then get back to Monday for school. Like that just is, it's insanity.
Doesn't make sense.
And so Chip Kelly's idea of, if we had just went the real route, if people had been honest and said, hey, the goal here is about football.
Yeah.
Why don't we just make them all independent? You can't complain at the end of the season about your RPI if your school has total control of it, and you can still schedule your rivalry games in there. And then everybody's an independent, and everybody else. And does that make it NCAA plus for football? I don't care. That's what it's always been anyway. Yeah. So if it's NCAA plus and the rest are Division I, that's okay. And if we can't as coaches, and I don't care what gender you are as a coach or what gender you coach, if you can't look at what happens in March Madness TV deal and realize that is not doable for any other sport, what they do, then you're completely delusional. And that is why the basketball teams at most universities are going to get more things. And that's all going to be fine. I think everyone can agree to any of those things I just said, but the other ones of stifling the Olympic development, which is what all the other sports are, when are getting hit, men's soccer, men's water polo, men's volleyball, you know, what these Olympic
swimming,
swimming, diving, gymnastics, all of these different sports that every 4 years everybody expects to win gold medals at the Olympics for USA. These programs are getting decimated by the way this gets played out, and that's really what's unfortunate about it. And I'm all for anything you can do to make things equal, but at the same time, part of the problems we have is that there is so much money generated in college sports, but you have to artificially offset things and just burn money, like burning money on charter jets to put 12 to 15 athletes on it because the football team also does it, could fund a men's volleyball team
at San Diego State
for just those flights that you were using, or just a flight maybe. God, you know, but at the end of the day, it's a horrible business model. If it wasn't the NCAA, most of these situations wouldn't be even an issue, because all the companies would be bankrupt because it's such a flawed business model. And I just want to see, like, all the money that they're bringing in, if it was actually used with very good intent with equity and not these artificial barriers put in place where you have to burn it and spend it and waste it, I don't think we'd have any issues with a lot of this. And you could be growing lacrosse and soccer and all these other ones that the men are getting absolutely hamstrung.
And the thing about all those sports you just mentioned, they're growing so big across the country. I mean, when we were kids here in California, lacrosse wasn't even a sport for boys. It is huge here now, right? Huge. And it's a great sport. Hell, I wish I was around. I would have played it for sure.
Yeah. And it was all back east. And when that snow and everything, I was like, why doesn't Southern California have lacrosse? It's the perfect area to do so.
But there's not a lot of growth in the men's collegiate lacrosse game. It's been around forever. We used to watch it at nationals, right? Every time we'd watch that, and the women's softball. But they're not blowing up the Pac-12 and the Big West. They're not all just joining every week with men's lacrosse. It just hasn't grown because of these reasons that you said. It's interesting to watch it from afar. I mean, I'm in it a little bit, having kids playing sports now with the NIL and a few other things, but to see how great college sports are, but then also to see some of the things like you just mentioned of how much better they could be, right? And probably should be. It's such an honor. And let me go ahead and say that because all four of us did it, and you're engaged in it daily, Al. It's an honor to play a college sport. Absolutely. It's an honor to go to school and represent your school and your family doing that. It's amazing. It's a grateful thing that all of us got to do. But if you get the chance to do it, you got yeah.
No, one thing I just want to make sure that I'm clear about it is because I ding the NCAA quite a bit. When I talk on some things, there are some things that they obviously do well. They are our governing body. They do have championships. We have a championship. There's always room to grow, but I don't lose the fact. I don't get lost in the fact that I am incredibly fortunate. In my view of this whole thing, I have the greatest job in volleyball because I get to coach where I want to, drive PCH from my hometown to my alma mater to coach in this amazing venue. And I didn't have to switch. And don't take that wrong when I say I didn't have to switch to the women's game. Lots of coaches did that because the finances were so different and there was more opportunities.
Yeah, I was going to say availability.
350 schools and 350 positions of the head coaches, assistant coaches. I understand it. I didn't have to do that. And so I'm very, very grateful for the opportunities, what it's given me as a player and what it's given me as a coach, what it's given me and my family as life experiences. Obviously, My wife went to Long Beach State. Both my boys went to Long Beach State. My older son, Aiden, set for us. And we got to experience national championship games together as a father and son. I mean, it's been very good to us as a family. However, when you are in it this long and you are in the weeds of it all the time, you see how some simple adjustments could just blow the lid off of men's volleyball and some of these other sports to that most gyms look like Long Beach, Irvine, UCLA, Hawaii, BYU, not just a handful of them.
Yeah, and that's why I think what I was saying about it is obviously we're all grateful, but things have to change still, and they have to grow and they have to adapt and go on. And to see men's volleyball where it is today, watching that match again, like I said, in your arena, but you and your administration over the years have put the effort to be that good, right? It's not like you just showed up and you were great. Like you had an administration behind you that wanted to help you build the program. So, hopefully, again, I said this besides, hit subscribe is people that are listening to this, hopefully it's executives, in business as well, especially the NCAA, is that they can help us make this better. They can help us grow this. They can help us give us the new young generation, the 12-year-olds that are watching this and watching volleyball, aspiring to be the next Nikolov or the next, Coley Kyman or whoever it might be. I know who's, but it's important because we don't want to see this go the other way, right? We want to see this continue to grow and give opportunities. And the reason why I said this at the beginning about being grateful that we are grateful, but if you get to, and we're talking this level, if you get to that spot and you're having a chance to go play college sports, college volleyball, you deserve the chance. You deserve to have that money. You deserve to do that. You've earned that spot. And if the NCAA is going to go ahead and continue these sports, they just need to figure out ways to enhance it and just continue to make it better.
That's exactly right. And I think there's a lot of people trying to do those things right now. And I think that I really think things like this, getting the message out, these things were unheard of, obviously not real long ago, where you're going to be able to get the message out because you get into men's volleyball right now and you talk about why there's so many kids coming or camps and recruiting, all the things that are so good in our program right now. Why is that? Well, we can reach them all on social media every day. Mm-hmm. Where, we didn't have, it's not going to come out 30 days later in Volleyball Magazine, the hard copy, and that's no disrespect to Volleyball Magazine because they're still involved in what we're doing as a sport, but you have instantaneous communication with these athletes and they can find, hey, you see that kid play and see what he did last night's game. We can go see him on Wednesday. Like it's that fast. And we just got to continue to get the greatest game that at least I believe it's one of the greatest team sports in the world, men's volleyball, and is continue to get it out in front where people can see it, whether it's social media or it's ESPN Plus, I don't care what it is, but keep getting it out there. But where I found that you can really change the mark is get someone who's a sports fan in a men's volleyball gym for the first time in an environment like you came to when we were playing UCLA. get them close to the action, and they're going to come back. So part of it, the universities have to get people into the environment.
Yeah, I tell that to anybody that will listen. I'm like, okay, I know you love women's volleyball, but you got to go to men's game. I mean, don't watch on. You can watch on TV, but you got to go. Like, and we've all said that a number of times. Like, it's totally different, and you're gonna get hooked. You really will get hooked on volleyball. But the men's game, it's just two separate games. So,
you touched a little earlier, or we touched on the NIL. What's your take on that?
I'm not the biggest fan, and don't take that wrong. I mean, like, anything we can do to make sure all these athletes' school and tuition and books, everything is paid for. I'm for whatever way we have to piece it together. Flat out pay for play is, I don't know where that ends, but I know it doesn't end well. There's no way it's sustainable, especially at the level of football, basketball, the way they're going, even women's volleyball right now.
Yeah, lots of money. Lots of money.
It's just not going to be able to be sustainable. I do think within the next couple of years, they're going to rein all that in. They're going to rein it in and make it a little bit more controlled by the universities and the
sign contracts with them. They're going to have to do. It's going to have collective bargaining. There's going to have to be something, because it's it's
the Wild West right now, isn't it? With that,
well, it really hasn't hit the men's game. There's some good stuff in men's volleyball, but it's not the same level as you're seeing in some of the other sports. So I think that, I guess my point is that as many men's volleyball players as I can get on my team that don't have any debt when they leave school because they put in all the effort that it takes to be on our team, that's what I want. So if that's a combination of financial aid and Alston and NIL and scholarships, I'm fine with that. Because I'm not one of the ones that think that when you get everything paid for, that you also need to have $50,000 worth of cash also. Because I think you're also devaluing why you're there. If you want to make that kind of money, you can go straight to the NBA. You can go straight to Europe and play volleyball if you want. But you're there in this very special time of your life as a student athlete. And your degree and this experience does matter. So for me, that's the baseline of what I want. Have the men's guys, since we're only talking men's volleyball right now, have the men's players leave college, have an unbelievable experience, and don't have any debt.
And not be in debt.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping for my children, right? Like graduating with a degree. Jake graduated with a couple degrees and money, right? And so, but like the fact that they're starting like that, all of us did, and at least I did, started with no debt and being able to go with an education and the experiences we all had in college. I mean, you couldn't give me $25 million for that, right? Like,
no,
I mean,
I agree.
I probably, with my new podcast, Al, is going to be called Getting Weird. So I guess if I write that book, I might get $25 million for all the years of stories,
the weird stories.
I'm with you. I appreciate that. I mean, I differ a little bit. I do feel like all the athletes deserve some of the money. I mean, they have so much of it, as you mentioned, and all the money through TV, especially football and basketball guys that have their names and you're watching, with that being said, I think it's out of hand. And I think it's something that needs to be reeled in. I'm not going to say change, but reeled in some way where everyone wins, right? The kids win, the schools win, the alumni win that are supported. Like, I love this team. Like, oh, that guy's gone, the whole team's gone, and I have a new team, and then this, and they're not graduating from your school, and that's another big component. Like, this is the NCAA, as much as I have my issues with them, as you mentioned, you love them and hate them at the same time. This is college sports, right? That you're playing college sports, and you're going to college, and you're getting an education, and whether that education is going to get you a job or not, it's an education, and you're learning how to grow up in that education. It's not just learning what 2 + 2 is and some history. You're learning how to be a young man and through all of that. And
I've had the good fortune of being all over the world and talked to all sorts of people. And the NCAA student athlete experience is the envy of the world.
Yeah.
And that's why there's so many foreign, athletes and that come to the United States to be part of this thing in all sorts of different sports. So the idea that we want to blow this up and turn it into some sort of professional endeavor, that people in Europe are looking at this as, this is crazy, what you guys have is special. But Coley, to go back on one thing, I'm not saying that people shouldn't make money. I'm saying a baseline for me with all the money out there
is no
debt.
debt.
That student athletes should have no debt. If if a guy who's a marquee type guy on each team is making a little bit more money or whatever, or he can get better deals for selling his uniforms or whatever, I'm all for extra stuff. Well, I just think that the baseline is I'd like to see my guys who put in what I watch them put in every day. They leave with no debt. They deserve that.
Yeah, and we're going to pivot to talk about volleyball in your team. One last thing I want to say about this, because I talked about this in the other pod, and hopefully I know you would do something like this, but like you talk about having no debt. For all these athletes, whether it's men's volleyball and they get $100, or you're talking about the quarterback at, Alabama making $5 million, the schools in the NCAA have got to do I don't know if it's going to say a better job, because I haven't really seen it thus far with some schools, to help those kids how to invest the money, how to use the money, how to help your family with the money, whatever the reasons are. You got it. We know you. You're an amazing human being, and you want your kids to graduate, learn life lessons, have no debt. If you start adding 10s and 20s and 30s and hundreds of thousands of dollars to some of these kids, like me, me, I grew up with nothing. If someone would have given me $250,000, we probably would have spent it in the first week. Just hanging out with Winslow, but
he knows how to get all the deals. You would have spent a dime of it.
We'd have went from Tijuana to San Francisco, and our money would have been gone.
Geeter along with you.
Yeah, Geeter. We'd all been in the truck driving. But I just think
would have been in the Winnebago.
In the Winnebago, right? So that was my only thing. The last thing I'll say about that is I hope that as they continue to grow through this and sift through the weeds and figure out what the model looks like in 3 to 5 years, that's part of the model. They have,
absolutely.
They teach kids how to get their grades up in study hall. They really need to teach all the young men and women who are making $1, I don't care if it's $1, how to use that dollar and how to value that.
Well, there's also an opportunity for these universities too, that, for the guy that comes in and knows he wants to be a business major or kinesiology major or whatever, engineering major, that's all great. But for the ones that come in and they're undecided, if they actually created, you can go to university and be a dance major, a music major, performing arts major, but you can't be an athlete. But which one of those do you think you have a chance of making the most money when you leave? And what is, statistically speaking, the best chance of going to the NBA or going to, especially at certain schools? And to me, a degree catered to an athlete who's trying to be an athlete. Why is it against the academic world that I want to be a professional athlete? I should have the right to do that, like a musician, like a dance person. Well, and my classes now are about accounting, about investments, about public speaking, about nutrition, about
business. Building your brand.
Business.
Yeah.
The stigmata is that there's only a small percentage become professional athletes. So
but that's the same in the other. It's the same in the other fields I'm talking about.
Yeah, how many dancers are getting on at Juilliard? Going to Broadway right out of college. How many singers?
That whole thing, Bear. NIL switches that whole thing, right?
If you're going to get in there as a university and you're going to have these athletes come through, instead of taking the quarterback at the football team who's got $5 million and stick him in a history degree, stick him in an athletics degree and have some basic accounting, some investments and public speaking, and building his brand and Instagram, how you could build your social media profile. And I've never understood that. I've actually brought it up to our university. I brought it up to other people when I've spoken too. It's I don't understand the difference.
Well, what was the reaction? Yeah. What was the reaction? Blasphemy?
The reaction, it's just athletics isn't looked at in the same light. It always has been looked at, that's dumbing something down. And it's well, not necessarily. You don't have to dumb it down.
Professional sports generate so much money in this country, in this world. That's a dumb statement.
Yep. And who knows? It's not something I've had a ton of discussions with as of late, but it's something I've talked about through my entire career, is that if I choose that I want to be an athlete and I'm going all in an athlete, then I should be able to pick a major that helps me in my field.
Absolutely.
It's going to take one. It's all it's going to take is one, and then it's going to blow up. If somebody actually puts a curriculum together that's already there at the university, right? Business, you got investing and all that kind of good stuff that we've talked about, because we've talked about the fallout, right? These kids get all this money, and it's a whole new world now. Like you said, Al, with Instagram, and how am I going to brand myself? How can I continue this to go? I mean, now we know that volleyball recruiters, right, have to build their brand off of the social media and all that kind of stuff. But to have that while you're trying to get your degree, I mean, I just think that's a brilliant idea.
That is a degree.
Well, that's what I mean.
Degree.
That's what I mean. So the brilliant idea is just to have one university go, you know what? we need to develop this curriculum. We need to do this for the athletes. It's going to take one in the big schools, right? And it's just going to, I think that'll blow up. I think this is a brilliant idea.
There you go. They're going to pick it up from your podcast and my idea.
That's right.
Set the pipe, baby.
Royalties, baby.
And we're going to call it the Knipe School of Athletics to every school because you invented it. But listen, I think it's brilliant because I'm sitting here thinking I've never heard someone say that before, and I can't believe I didn't think of it. But I'm listening. Well, no,
if you're not careful, he's going to take it as a CK.
No,
you might want to brand it.
I'm going to be honest with you
now, Al.
But no, seriously, I would, because I'll tell you this. I know my son who's going to go to college and what he wants to do. He wants to become a coach, right? So they have coaching and all that stuff. Imagine but he wants to be a professional athlete. So in being a professional athlete, just like these other things, like you're teaching all the things you just mentioned. I don't want to go through them all. That's, if I don't make it, let's see, because he wants to play me. He doesn't go to the NBA. He learned how to market. He learned how to put stuff on social media and make a business out of it. He learned this. He learned finance. All of these things he learned in his major, right? Which isn't basketball. In his major, to become a business person of his own brand, and now you don't make it. You don't make the Broadway musical. You still go and do something from it. You still create a different path for what you're going to do in your life.
That's you stay in that industry.
You stay in that industry. And you're brilliant. It's brilliant. I love it, Al.
Concordia has a program for the masters, coaching and athletic administration. And that's great for the people
we have a sports management program too. Those are wonderful. I'm talking about an undergraduate degree. That is actually beneficial to what the student athletes want to do in their life. And they should have every opportunity to chase their dreams and have it supported by the institutions.
And have it applicable while they're taking those courses. I mean, you get an IG, you get a YouTube, you get all this marketing stuff, but while you're at school, it's applicable today. You don't have to wait.
He's coming in undecided, and every class he goes to isn't interesting to him because this is what he wants to do in the future. It's going to be much better than the kid forced to be, American studies or whatever it might be that he's being forced into.
Love it.
Yeah, great call.
Love it.
Yeah. So you want to pivot, Sully? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to pivot on this just because we've gone over AVP, we've gone over the professional women's, we've gone over men's, we've gone over women's indoors, and there's kind of a common theme, sort of. And actually, you and I, Al, at Lewis, I got to stand next to you pre-game, and you're like, watch this guy. I'm like, okay. He was an outside hitter. He goes, just watch. And so he misses and he's trying to hit straight down, but he hits the net. And he goes, what? I'm like, the dude flies. He goes, yeah. Tries it again. And he didn't get quite what Al was expecting him to do, is just to pound it at the 2-foot line. That was a setter, Moni Nikolov, right? And almost every pod that we on, this guy's name gets brought up, from an 80 miles per hour, serve
84.
to Bear gets to see it firsthand. Cause I keep telling these guys, I'm like, you had to be there. Like, it was rock star. Like, I couldn't believe it. Then the 80 mile per hour serve, and then Bear's like, it was 84 when I was there, and I was in the sandbar, and I got to see it on the floor. That was unbelievable, right? So he's a brother of a kid that you had that was an NCAA player of the year. Now he's on your team, and it's interesting because we can talk about it, and then when Coley actually went to go see him, he's like, yeah, no. This is a generational kid. He is an absolute generational kid too. And then Bear comes back on and says, they're actually sending this guy from the back row on the first ball over to hit from the back row.
I'm not trying to give strategy away, Al. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, no, but you can see it. I mean, he's so long and so talented. And I said this when I was at Lewis. I'm like, he's not even polished yet as a setter, and he's pulling off stuff that you're like, what the, faking to go over, and he back sets or a quick set. I mean, it's pretty dynamic. So I would love for you to talk about, because we talked about a little bit about you going over international, your son's over there and the stories there, and that's for other pods in the future. But tell us how you found him. I know you had his brother, but the impact he's not only at Long Beach State, but the game himself. I mean, he is the rock star of men's volleyball right now.
Yeah, I've answered this question obviously a few times so far this year. So what I would say is that when you watch him play, if you were just watching him warm up and go through any part of the game, the last thing you're envisioning him doing is being the setter.
Mm-hmm.
Like just the way he goes about his business, the way he hits his serve, the way he attacks the ball, his size, his length, his physicality. Most of the time that kid walks in your gym and you're saying you're going to play on the right or you're going to play on the left for me.
Yeah.
And I think the comparison, and I know this is dating us a little bit, but I think that what Pat Powers did in the 80s for volleyball, of being able to go from the middle to the right and create the D for the 84 Olympic team, and that big physical guy who could fly with a great arm, that imagine Pat doing all that, but Doug had him set, like it just, it doesn't optically, it doesn't work when you watch him play. And I don't mean that negative in any way. It shows you his all-round volleyball ability. But really what it comes down to, like, for people ask, like, how's he at this level as an 18-year-old? Because technically he turned 18 at the very end of the fall for us. He could be playing 18 and under club volleyball right now, so
that's crazy.
But in reality, I think he's a perfect starting point of a conversation of why this is happening in international countries like this, these kids that are being developed, and why it's not here to the same degree. And this is no disrespect to the American athlete, but our system is set up so poorly for them to get to their maximum potential in an early state, because we say he's young if he's 22 or 23 years old. They say you're young if you're 17 or 18 years old, because that's when you're going to finish high school and you go professionally. So you're young when you're 18 and 19. Like, here's my point on this, is that he played volleyball. He's played more volleyball than most of the guys who are seniors for us right now.
Right.
Already in his life.
Yep.
He played at an academy, a high school academy, played in a club. He played 5 days a week, 6 days a week against guys that were older, bigger, stronger. He played international volleyball against neighboring countries, and then in world championship type under 19, under 17 events. And then if you compare that, what goes on here, they play for our clubs and they play one good match on a weekend, and then a pool that's very weak. And they practice twice a week for 2 hours, and they play once a month in a tournament, and they're just thousands and thousands of reps and hours behind. And, the number one thing, if you read the book Outliers, 10,000 hours to master anything, right? Well, we do a drill for our guys. Where are you on the 10,000 hours by the time you're a freshman for us? And most of our guys get there and they're like 2,000 hours, 1,700 hours, 2,300 hours. And they map out, because if even the NCAA gets involved with this, you're allowed 8 hours in the fall with the guys for this many weeks. And then you have our guys like why? How does this make any sense? I want to get better. But that's what I don't think people realize, is that he's been playing volleyball so long. Same with some of the other guys we've had. Same with his brother. Why his brother came over and played for us and was the freshman of the year and the NCAA player of the year. Only time in the history of men's volleyball that's
going to happen again, but just it's going to happen again.
Well, my point is that when his dad, who, by the way, Vlado Nikolov, was a tremendous opposite for the Bulgarian national team, played all over Europe on professional teams. And when I was coaching the USA team, he was at the tail end of his career, still, finishing up his days as the opposite and the captain. So, they have a good pedigree. His mom played volleyball as well. And with those guys, though, their whole existence to what they do volleyball wise is they're experts. So when the dad, when Alexander got named freshman of the year, as he calls it, newcomer of the year, he goes, that's great, but he's played more volleyball than everybody here. So he kind of should. That was the attitude. But a couple of weeks later, when he was named the player of the year, his dad was, that one's good. Like that one. But my point is that I really think, and this is why USA Volleyball has the same issue to figure out the answer to, and that is, if you're going to have our club level volleyball, the for-profit type club that's out there, that's part of the issue.
Yep.
Is they come together twice a week to play some volleyball, and then they go to these random tournaments, and then we put them together in the best 12 we can find, and we ship them off to Norseca, and they generally are good enough to beat most of the Norseca teams, and then sometimes they'll lose to maybe Canada, or sometimes they'll lose to Puerto Rico. And then it'll be kind of dicey sometimes in the gold medal match against Cuba, because those guys have been playing earlier and bigger and stronger. And then the very next year, when they just have to be top 2, they qualify for world championships of under 21, under 19, and now going to be under 17. And we ship them off to Europe, and they get 15th, or they get 12th at the European Championships. And then, which is a huge credit to men's volleyball, they all go to their universities, they all get better. They get better, they get better, they get better. And by the time they get to the national team, that our national team is always ranked really high in the world. So what are we going to do to change it for our young guys? How do we bring the best players in America together sooner, more often, higher level competition on a regular basis? And then there wouldn't be as much disparity of a kid coming from Europe and being the same age as some of our guys and it looking like he's older when he's not.
But okay, I'm going to say this, probably this isn't, you're there with him every day and you guys are Long Beach. So I watched him play and I've seen him play a few times on TV. I don't disagree with you, and I want to have this conversation because I think it's important. I see it in basketball. It's all about money. There's kids playing every weekend. It's just, there's no development. You know, that's why the European hoop game's taking over the NBA and whatnot. Yeah. But with that being said, I remember when LeBron was 18, he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated and people were like, wow, this guy is just different. I don't care if Nikolov's been playing more than everyone else.
No, I get your point.
He's different. And like,
I'm lumping them all into European
agreed.
Players at this point.
Agreed.
Nikolov, you said the term generational talent, and he absolutely is.
He's, if not generational, he might be more than that. Like, I mean, I've watched volleyball like you guys have since I was a kid, right? Like, I mean, back in probably like 84, I watched the Olympics. That's when I started to really love it, back in 84. So I've been watching volleyball since 84, and I've never seen anything like him in that regards, especially with setters. And some of the best we've seen from Stork, I mean, go all the way back. Yep. He does things that are transcendent into the game of volleyball that we've never seen. And that's why I was saying, like, I said this on the podcast the other day, we were just talking and I was like, you know, I went to, you know, I've been to a few matches already and like UCLA setter's damn good. The SC setter's damn good. UCI's really good. Like they're not close right now. And that's just me, Coley Kyman's opinion. I don't think they're close. And this kid, whether he's a freshman, he's played extra years or whatever, he's so much better than them right now. And so hopefully, this is where I am on the American side and the USA side, is those kids, the younger kids watching come into that match that night. There was a ton of juniors at your game at that UCLA. They're watching that kid going, wow, I want to be like him. I need to work harder or work differently. I don't want to say work harder, but work differently. Yep. And some of them aren't just, you know, generational talent. His dad was an Olympian or, you know, national team guy. His mom played. And so, you know, genetics play a big role into that 10,000 hours as well.
Yes, it does.
It probably more so than the 10,000 hours, but he's so special. And I can't, I mean, unless something weird happens, he will be the player of the year. I don't care if you guys win it. I mean, because it just doesn't matter. There's nobody better than him right now in college volleyball. And so I like watching it. And I think he might end up being, if he continues to do what you say he is and how he works and he wants to be a setter, he may go down as the greatest setter we've ever seen. Like, I mean, LeBron's playing in year 23. And when we talked about that thing when he was 18, he's proven to be that good. I don't see why that Nikolov can't do that in the sport of volleyball. He's 18 years old. He loves it. He's great at it. He's fun to watch. He has energy. That's the other thing I love about him. He looks like he's having fun. Like you're watching him warm up and he's like, man, he's not a jerk. He looks like he loves it and he's so good at it. So I'm a big fan if you haven't noticed.
Hey, Al, coaching a guy like that, like a top player, you've coached a lot of players through your years as a national team coach, a bunch of NCAA championship players, TJ, Clay Stanley, Nikolov. How do you coach those elite players? Like, is there a difference? Do you treat them the same? What do you do with
Great question,
a top player like that?
Yeah, I don't think there's any one way to approach it. I think, one, you got to establish a relationship with them. There's got to be some trust. That he knows that you have his best interests in mind, you know, and we truly do what we work on with him and what we want him to be good at. Of course, we need it to be good for Long Beach State, but he came here to develop. So there's been a huge emphasis on his blocking, which was an area that they really wanted to work on. And he has picked it up really, really fast.
Jeez. Love his swagger after he blocks somebody.
Yeah.
He's there down.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's one way, is like just establishing what it is you're trying to do for him. The other one is that you got to realize the more you coach, the more you pick up, whether it was TJ or whether it was Clay or whatever. They're all totally different personalities, but whether it was his brother or now it's him, is that they have so much. And in this day and age, they have so much already on them. Like, after whether it's a game or a practice and he picks up his phone, there's going to be just a gazillion messages and everyone tags him. It's just everyone in the world's watching him, right? He's already got so much on his plate.
Right.
Sure.
The last thing I want to do is put a lot more on him. But at the same time, we have to create a system, and it doesn't have to be hard and rigid. It just has to have some guardrails to it of what he's trying to do while he's with us and how he can make our players better. The other thing, though, is spending a lot of time with guys on our team and of understanding their job is to obviously highlight some of the things he's good at, which maybe is a little different than we've played in years past. And one of the examples I've used before, and I remember watching an interview with Michael Cooper, and Michael Cooper was talking about when Magic came to the Lakers, you learned fast to expect greatness, because if not, you got a pass in your ear when you weren't expecting it because you just weren't expecting it.
Right.
Well, obviously our quick hitters and our opposite, every time he goes up to set the ball and it's tight to the net, is he going to dump? Is he going to hit? Our other hitters also have to learn how to hit quick attacks off of him, maybe not being in a traditional setter's posture and not being surprised when he sets the ball when it looks like he's going to hit. And we failed in the fall quite a bit at this because it wasn't a big part of what we've done in the last 25 years, never mind the last couple of years. So I think when you balance all that out, then what you're showing him is that we're trying to adapt to you a little bit, but we also, here's some guidelines you got to adapt to us. But most importantly, as a head coach, I want him to feel I support him, I believe in him. And once we're done with training, it's time to play. We want to fly. And then as long as we can come back on Monday and say, these things were good, these things were not, it's still March. We're trying to be as good as we can in April and May. And once you establish that trust, which is what I'm talking about the most, I think that those guys, good players, exceptional players, want to be coached way more than anybody believes.
Of course they do.
Want to be coached.
Yeah.
Yep.
They want to be the best, and they want to hear it, and they want to continue to grow. And there was one play that made me, like, I already knew he was great, and Sully had talked about it on the podcast. Wow, you got to watch this kid. He's 80-mile-an-hour serve, and I think it was the second game, because that's when I saw you when you came over to the side I was sitting on, and there was a ball that was passed or dug or whatever it was off the court right next to you and he ran over, and he didn't even really run. He kind of and he back set to the four, or I don't even know what you call it, to
left
the pin.
side. Yep.
But he didn't bend his back. He didn't go back like everyone would do from there, just to huck it back. He kind of it felt like he was just walking towards you, jumped and just went from here. And he, from off the court all the way back to the pin, perfect set. Like he was standing at, it was a perfect free ball to him right at the front. And Michelle and I were right there, and I was like, holy shit, wow. You can do so much with a guy that can do that. Right, on a play like that.
And really, those are some of the things that he takes great pride in. There's people, when you watch him play, watch a couple things. That's a great point. When he gets to set the ball from distance, he loves to show off the size of his first baseman's hands of chucking the ball. But the other part of it is when chaos happens on the court and there's a scramble and he ends up on, if he gets stuck on the left side of the court, he'll come in sometimes, just play left back and push everybody over. Maybe he could have got right back, maybe he can't. But I think sometimes he wants to prove that he can play left back, he can play middle back. He'll get stuck in the middle and stuff a ball being a middle. He loves to just play the game wherever he has to fill in, but he takes a lot of pride in the fact that he wants to he wants to play, and he loves to show you that he has put in a tremendous amount of time as a volleyball player, and he's not afraid to showcase that in any aspect of the game.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Cool. Hey, so I have this hat. So everybody knows, and people that are listening can't see it. It says Long Beach Volleyball, and it has 3 stars on there. And one of the stars are filled in as a player, and the other 2, Alan Knipe has been a part of all 3 of those stars, right? 1 as a player, 2 as a coach. Totally proud of you. You also have a Golden West state championship. You also have ASICS Paul Mitchell, multiple open championships. You got to tell us which ones was the sweetest. I'm thinking it's the ASICS Paul Mitchell, at least one of them, maybe Memphis over the national championship. But people want to know these things.
I know what it is, and I don't even have to say. Just I'm going to see if I'm right after he says it.
It's got to be Golden West. Come on.
I'm Golden West, duh.
Yeah, he went to Orange Coast, though.
Coach, right here.
I know, he went to Orange Coast.
He was a Pirate.
Yeah, I don't know, man. They're all so uniquely different. You know what I mean? Like, they're totally different. And to think back to the Golden West one, as special as that was, that we got to do that together, Sully, and just it was so much fun. Being so all into coaching this team for, $4,000 for the year, and
wait, you got $4? What?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to tell you that.
Big payday,
or whatever.
Drinks
whatever
around now.
Money was, it wasn't close to the effort obviously we put in, but running that junior college program as close to a D1 as we possibly could was just a blast, and watching these guys get to a final for the first time in Golden West history, and then to win it.
And that was Al. Awesome. I don't know if you know that, Coley. That was after Al went to Italy, right?
Yeah,
he went to Italy, go pro, right? And then he got hurt and came back. And
yeah.
Keep going now. Sorry.
No, that was just a really, really special time because, to be honest, at that time, I really had no interest at all of coaching. That wasn't, and I never tried to coach. My dad coached, obviously, when I was a kid, and it was interesting. I just deviated from that. I didn't want to do it, not because my dad did or whatever. I just never thought I wanted to do that. And then to kind of get sucked into Golden West, I really, really enjoyed it. And then but the other ones, like winning at nationals is like, nowadays it's hard to explain to this generation of what going to play for a national championship at USVBA nationals, was all about. Those were some really special times because that team that we won in Memphis, it was not only special because of who we were playing with, because Coley and I had this really cool opportunity with Presh and some of the guys that we got to go when the World University Games team was really was special. The USA Volleyball put money into it, and it was special. And you had all these hyper competitive guys from every university just show up in the middle of nowhere at IPFW and generate this incredible aura of this team, and how fast it switched from this super competitive of what university I play on to this common goal of trying to do something for USA Volleyball. I didn't realize at that time what a couple of weeks in the Midwest, how it would change the whole trajectory of my volleyball friendships for the rest of my life. Because besides my Long Beach guys, who obviously I'm very, very close with still, that particular group of 12 to 18, if you expand it out to the whole group, not just the group that went to the tournament, I'm incredibly close with all those guys around. Those are some really good people from a lot of universities around the country. So that one was that was really special because when Cole and I got close at that event, he then joined kind of the Mike D'Alessandro and Rocky Sorelli group of Raymond Construction,
right?
Because back then you could only pick up 2 guys that were current college guys that didn't play with you during the whole year. And Cole and I were the pickups the year before we won.
Yep.
And then to go play with, and a big part of that to me was to win it with Mike D'Alessandro setting us, who we all have our own relationships with Mike, how special it was. And plus he had been to the finals a whole bunch of times and didn't win it. So that opportunity just to do that first, I got to experience that first at Long Beach winning, and then all of a sudden this first with winning at nationals was huge.
And we took the sponsorship. We took Paul Mitchell sponsorship in Memphis, and we went to what you just said it the other night, the steakhouse. Biggs took us to
Butcher Shop.
We went to the butcher shop after that.
Paul.
Before we go back to you answering more, because it is about you talking, not me, but I do want to go back to that 91 summer real quick. We're going to show it on this when this is done. I just actually was in my garage and I found the picture of our 91 World University Games team. It's actually like the professional photo, and it says it's awesome. But that summer of being in Fort Wayne, thanks Arnie Ball, we're going to hopefully have him and Loy on here sometime soon. But we were, we tell stories, but like we were there for like 3.5 weeks. They put us up in a golf course. And there was 18 or 20 of us trying to make 12 spots to go to the World University Games. And, we talked about that picture I showed you, Winslow, Sealy, Loy, Canyon, that's right there.
Yeah.
Matty Lou,
Jason Perkins. I mean, like you said, we can go on that team, but that summer itself, it changed my life. Like you said, like, I mean, you and I became really good friends. Presh too. Like Presh is one of my best friends. I was with him last night, and like we all became good friends. I was lucky enough for you guys to invite me to that team, and I went for we went for 15 years together, and just got that experience to travel around the country and be friends and all of that stuff. That was a really fun summer. Not just for the volleyball, right? I mean, we go back, we won the silver medal. We lost, in the finals to Poland, who was just probably better than we were, but what an amazing group of guys, and in that experience of being there. And that's why playing sports to me, and like you went back earlier, we talked about the college experience. Like I think that's also what's missed, especially in the juniors, the younger kids, is that's what it should be about, is those experiences and those fun times. Like the fishing, I could go on and tell some stories. Blowing up fish with dynamite, probably shouldn't have done that. On the 4th of July, like that was really cool. Probably edit that one out.
But if you think about that summer when you talk about losing to Poland in the gold medal match, but being down 0-2 to Russia in the semis and beating them in 5 in the early 90s, U.S.-Russia, I mean, that was a pretty incredible match.
It was probably one of my favorite matches ever to play in when I look back at that, and the celebration and the excitement. Again, you ask this, Sully, all the time. You asked Holly, what's it like? And I think maybe a good segue, you have to have Al answer this after. What's it like to wear the USA? But like, we're playing in 1991, USA-Russia, big match in the semifinals in London, crowds going crazy. And we were down 0-2 and we came back and won in 5, like you said. And it was such a unique experience with all these guys from different colleges that we just were with for 3 weeks, putting time and effort in 2 days and 3 days.
Incredible.
And to win that match and to secure yourself a medal. Also, like you get a medal, like you win that semi, you're getting a medal. And so that was pretty rad.
Big deal. The story that I always think of the most in that match was, on that team, we had Winslow and Coley and myself were the middles, and those guys, it was usually Coley and Winslow would start most of the matches. And I remember warming up in between sets, and we're coming from college where, you play pepper and do all this stuff, and FIVB rules are no ball can be out at all. So you're just jogging back and forth. And I'm trying, we're down. I'm thinking, I'm going to go into this match. I got to stay warmed up. So we start doing, Carl Hinkle and I are doing dive lines, going as fast as we can and then diving to the other end line, the sideline. And I go for the world record and hit my chest and absolutely split my chin open.
Yep, I remember.
During the match. And there was this huge curtain behind us, and I grabbed the team doc because I put my hand there. I go to Carl, I go, "Hey, what does this look like?" And he goes, "A second mouth." And I go, "Well, that's not good." So I grab the trainer, we go behind the court, and he put sturdy strips on this huge white Band-Aid on, and now I go back to the bench, and whatever time has passed, and Jim McLaughlin was our head coach, and he calls me up to get a paddle to go into the match, and he turns and looks at me and goes, "What the hell is wrong with you?"
It looks like a chin strap.
I go, "Don't worry about it. I'm totally fine. I'll explain it after." And he goes, "All right." And I'm out there with a full football chin strap on for the rest of the match.
And you crushed it, and you helped us win that gold.
Well,
help us win that match.
After the match, he says to me again, I go, "Coach, I know how much video you watch. You'll love how it happened." And in a video the next morning, he goes, "That happened during warm-ups?"
Amazing.
That's hilarious.
Unbelievable. But those are the stories that are so great, right? Look at what you're telling about that, right? Like that's what's so rad about that.
That's just the tip of the iceberg for Al and Knipe. Let me tell you what. I mean, there's so much more for sure.
Well, I actually think and this is a really quick one, I think probably the best story of the entire tournament in England at the World University Games is because the nice thing about going to the World University Games if you're a volleyball player is it's actually like the Olympics. There's all of the disciplines going on. So you're staying in the Olympic Village. You get to go watch water polo, whatever, these other swimming, diving, basketball. And we have these huge apartment buildings that we're living in we were
They were
these
just
nicer
built in
ones,
just built in Sheffield.
really nice. And then the ones that they were going to knock down after was over here. And at the basement of one of them was a bar. And you had to go in there, and it was so gross and sweaty in there. You had to hold your beer with a hand on top so the sweat didn't drop from the roof into your beer. But the best part is and I'll get real quick to the point of this. By the end of our time in the bar, and they had a karaoke deal on stage, all the Eastern European and all the foreign countries were just asking for Coley to sing one more song.
American Pie.
Why is your singing career always come up in our podcast?
Because I wanted to do that for a living. I just wasn't good enough, man. That's what I wanted to do.
Apparently you were good.
Wasn't the place called the Ye Old Blue Balls? That was outside. That was outside the area. You're right.
I don't know that I heard that. I wasn't there, but
yeah, of course you never.
Something.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do that. You got to follow the rules. But no, that was amazing.
Coley was the top request at the Village. It was incredible.
It was fun. We had a good time. So I'm going to say this, and I can't believe you didn't say it, but you were probably getting there, but I interrupted because I like to talk. I got to go back to some of your best moments. I mean, let me ask you this, because this is probably a whole different segment, but winning the national championship at your school where you played and you won one, winning it now as a coach, and watching your son also.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, playing that and being part of that, how was that?
Almost surreal, to be honest with you. It's really weird that once you're kind of, the warm-ups are over and the game goes, you get going, you get into this mode. It doesn't matter what match you're coaching. It really is just another match. As crazy as that, I've said that about the Olympics too. Like you walk into all this fanfare at the Olympics, and they're dropping things on you like, hey, there's going to be 60 million viewers of this match, and you're like, wow, that's a little different than coaching, my club team or Golden West back in the day. But once the match starts, it really just does become another match. The competitor in you. But where the uniqueness with coaching Aiden was, we got to experience some things together that you can't really explain to people.
Sure.
That you experienced as a student athlete, and you try to tell people, right? This is what people go like, I get tired of hearing the stories, but you can't truly explain it if they didn't live it with you, or they didn't live it in their own journey. But to have Aiden do it with me and then get to do some of the things on his own, but I've already kind of done some of those things, like down the track to a finals or to a conference finals or a certain team or on the road, but do it in his own way. It had this really special bond. But it wasn't until the matches were over, and sometimes you see him in pictures, even the emotion in pictures, like that was pretty fun to do. So yeah, that was special. Winning at UCLA was in 18 was really special in its own right, because it had been a while since Long Beach had won, and that Josh and TJ group had got there a couple of times and came up short. But what people don't realize in that 18, between 17 and 18, there was a very good chance TJ was going to go pro. Mm-hmm. And there was a big push from a lot of people to try to get him to go pro. And he decided not to. He decided to come back, and we had a great conversation about it. And there's a really special moment at the end of that match. If you go watch it on YouTube or anything, is when the ball drops.
He sought you out.
Of TJ and I. It's just like, TJ is a very, very special person to me. He's an incredible volleyball player, but he's so all in all the time. And TJ and I got our relationship to a level that was significantly more than coach player. And we shared a lot of things together. We've been through a lot of things. He's been through a lot of things. And when that ball dropped and he came over and was able to accomplish why he stayed,
that's awesome.
That's a pretty special moment. Those are the awesome ones. So there's so many. And what I've learned in my career with being so fortunate to be in so many of these moments is to try not to compare them. To try not to, because they're so different. Like, whether it was when Sully and I were Golden West, or whether it was winning in 91 at Long Beach, or whether it was the ones coaching, or even the ones you just get to the Final Four, or whatever it is, there's none that feel the same, even in the moment. The venues don't feel the same. The game doesn't play out the way you thought it was going to. There's always these weird things that happen. And if you can really just stay present in the moment and realize, I say this to people all the time. You drive down like in Huntington Beach where I live, you're on the way, you're driving down Golden West on your way to PCH, and there's this huge sports complex like every place has in America. And you pass there any night and the lights are on, all these, guys are out there in their 40s playing softball. They're not trying to create a softball career. They're trying to rekindle their college career. They're trying to feel that moment again of competing. They're trying to feel that kinship with their teammates. They're trying to, just have a little bit more time of what it felt like when they were part of a team that had a common goal with some of their best friends grinding in the gym. And they're searching for it. Well, my whole life has been I stayed in this 18 to 22-year-old world and at my own alma mater. So it really, I've never gotten out of that for the most part. It's like Groundhog Day over and over again, but I've tried really hard to make sure I stay present in it because it's so special. And it's been an incredible journey.
Crazy.
Unbelievable.
It's good stuff, Al.
It's so awesome, Al, that you get to do that. And something that I thought was cool that you said earlier, and this probably a good lesson for everyone from 10 to 35 still competing, is it's just the game, right? It's just a volleyball game. And like I tell Braden that all the time. I don't care what game it is. He's playing for the league title, or he goes out, I give him my my fiery speech or whatever that I would do. And at the end I look at him, he's closing the door. I'm like, Diz, just another game of hoop, bud. You've been playing hoop your whole life. Just you got to put the ball in the basket. 10,000 people there, 100 people there, you in the parking lot outside or the driveway. It's still the same thing. So I like that you teach that and you see that and you help the kids. One thing I'll say, and this is a good plug for Long Beach State, and I'm in the thick of it. At least Braden picked a school, but in the regards to recruiting is, I'm not saying this out because I love you, but you care, and you heard it just right there with your story about TJ is. Go find a program. If you want to play college sports, find a program that has a coach that cares and that has your well-being and your best interest in heart. Because you're as a parent, you're giving that coach. If I had a son playing volleyball and I'm sending to you, like I'm expecting you to take care of him. Yeah. I don't want to call or an email that he's crashed his car for being an idiot. Like you're a pseudo father, and so it's great to see that. I've known you forever, but that you're doing that for your program, and it's not a secret, and it's probably no coincidence that you're on the top every year. Everyone wants to come to Long Beach. When you were there, nobody did, right? Ray was doing his best to get guys there. That. Just like the same at Northridge. Nobody wanted to go to Long Beach. You're the premier program in this country. You prove it every year. You're there every year, and you're there because of not just the work ethic, but because you put people first. And that's what I love about you. And I can't wait for the next time. We're not getting you off here, but the next time you come on here to tell more fun stories, because we have plenty of those.
Well, CK, I greatly appreciate that. It's been my life's work, and I love it, and I'm very fortunate. And it's the reason why you do it. It's the why behind why we coach.
And that's and it's great. And I hope a lot of coaches out there, if you are listening, whether you're in volleyball or any other sport, that's why you do it. It's great that you make money. It's great that you get to travel and do all these things. But getting into coaching should be about the young man or woman or the young boy or girl that you're teaching. And it's about that, because when we get to be our age, you just said it, Bear's actually still in it too, coaching, but Sully and I aren't. It's over. It's over for us. Like I don't get to travel around with a team and right. Play the cards on the things and has those stories and the fun, and like it goes so fast. And so like you got to enjoy it, and it's cool that you do that with your culture, and that's why you guys keep winning. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Well, I got to tell you, so Alan Knipe can come back 10, 20 times and we still not have enough stories or have enough time to take care of those stories. So, Alan Knipe, thank you so much for coming on Set the Pipe, buddy. And, we haven't even gotten to the Olympics, and we'd love to have you on. We know your time is precious. We'd love to have you before the playoffs, maybe to give us a little half an hour or something to kind of give us what you're going to be doing in the playoffs. But just a special interview. It was a great interview, and we'd love to have you anytime you want to come back, buddy.
I appreciate it, Sully. And
Thank you.
This is a special group, and I love all you guys. Great teammates, but it's been a while since we were playing volleyball together. So even more so to what we've been talking about, it's the love and the connection and the relationships and the friendships of a lifetime. So
Yeah.
I wish you guys the best on this. This is what I was talking about before. We need more of this to grow our game. So if you will have me, I'll be back anytime you want me.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to do. This game is too valuable and too amazing for it not to continue to grow, and for us to start getting it out to the masses with now the content and the media that we can do it with, right? Like, it wasn't like this when we, like you said, you were picking up Volleyball magazine. So the more we can get it out there, the better. Keep doing what you're doing. Other than playing Northridge, I want you to win it. Go win the national championship. Put another one up on the banner for us state schools. I called you guys the Princeton of the West Coast because Northridge is the Harvard of the West Coast, academically, that is. So yeah, I'm cheering for you. I'm cheering for you guys.
Yeah,
I
go
appreciate
Beach, huh?
it, TK.
All right, everybody,
Thanks,
set the
Sully.
pipe.
Love you, buddy. Thank you.
Love you
Love
guys,
you, Al.
all you guys. Thanks, Al.